Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Sports Week with me, Sohail Khan. We'll be bringing you news and views about what's happening in the world of sport, well, specifically football. I'm joined in the studio by my two illustrious pundits. They are fans, and their middle word is banter. Talking of banter, I do want you also to call in and banter with us, join in the fun. But my guest today, my panel is Dwayne and Alex. Welcome to the show, boys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to start off with something a bit controversial, but it was in the news this week. 60,000 people signed a petition for a player, a professional footballer, not to be reinstated to play for Sheffield United, his former club, because he was convicted of rape. Now, if you're a football professional or any professional and you've been convicted of a crime and you've done your time, he was convicted for 6 years. So this is Ched Evans. He played for Sheffield United and he was convicted for rape and he got 6 years. He served 3. He's done his time. He's now come out. The fans want him back. The manager wants him back. The chairman want him back. He was the top scorer at Sheffield United. But do you think, considering the crime that was allegedly committed, because he's always pleaded his innocence, that he should be reinstated? Think about him as a player, him coming back into his working life, think about the fans, but also, what about the victim? And this is where 60,000 people have complained and signed a petition and sent it to the chairman. I'm going to put this to my panel, but I'd also like to hear what you have to say. The number to call, 01895 445546. So, based on this story and what my panel say, and your own opinion, give us a call, let us know what you think. Let me start with Dwayne. Dwayne, what do you, I mean, if you were the chairman, for example, of Sheffield United, would you take him back?
So this is a bit of an ethical minefield, because obviously, as you said, in any normal part of society, once a person has, been rehabilitated, they should be allowed to earn a living. But there's also like a moral construct that comes with being a footballer. So, for example, they're role models for young people, or they are seen as pillars of the community. So having a former offender, it's a heinous crime, rape, to be represented and to be lauded around in images, on advertising, is that insensitive to the victims, or other victims of such a crime? Or so it's a really tough balance, because I don't think there's a real right or wrong answer. Because do people deserve a second chance in life? Of course they do. Look at Ian Wright. Ian Wright almost went to prison. Alex will know more about that than I do. But then he came out, became a footballer, and made a bet for himself. So he has a right to earn a living. So on that agreement, I think he does have a chance. But also, I'm sensitive for the victims. Do they deserve to have him thrust in their face every week? Celebrating on the sideline with his teammates? I don't know. It's a very tricky one to call.
It is a tricky one, and we've seen it before when professional sportsmen. We saw it with Mike Tyson. I mean, he served some time in prison as well. But as soon as he came out, his first fight was sold out. He was a big draw. Is it all about the money? And what about the victim here, Alex? What's your take on this?
See, for me, although there are ethical considerations as well, I think if you look at a lot of American sports, there are sports stars who have gone to jail. Michael Vick being another one, and the consideration always has to be, as a chairman, you always have to think what is best for the club. It might sound a bit callous, but that's your job as a chairman, because if you make a decision based on ethics alone and the club struggles, then you're going to be out of a job, and the club itself is going to struggle. A lot of other people may be out of jobs as well. I think the chairman has to consider if the player is worth taking the risk on bringing it back into the team, how it's going to affect the fans, how it's going to affect the other players in the dressing room, and also financially, he has to think about sponsorships. Is he going to lose sponsorship deals because of this player now being reinstated? And if it's going to affect the club in the long term, then he has to take those things into consideration.
Okay, so from a financial perspective, it's obviously looking very, very good for the club. It's looking good for the player. But we have a victim here who's going to suffer possibly for the rest of their life. So he's going to stay with this victim for the rest of their life. But the player, he's out there every week. He's earning 20 to 100 grand a week. It still doesn't seem right. Do you think can there be a middle ground? Could there be something that could be reached?
I struggle to find kind of a solution to this problem that is equitable for everyone. I mean, you could argue that the player himself was convicted of the crime, and the crime that and the sentence that he was given was his sentence. Now, when you finish your sentence, should you be punished for the rest of your life for something that you've done? Or if that's the case, then the sentence should have been longer. The sentence should be a life sentence if he's going to be punished for the rest of his life. The argument is he's done his time as judged by what is reasonable for the crime. Whether that is the case or not is a different issue. That's not down to the chairman. The chairman has to make the decision based on what's best for the club, I believe.
I'd like to know what you think as the viewers. The number 01895 445546. If I may be bold to put forward not a solution but some kind of a compromise. I mean, footballers, and like most professional sportsmen, they get paid a lot of money. Now, if somebody has been convicted of any crime, do you think it would be reasonable for their massive income to give a proportion to this person who is going to suffer for the rest of their life? What's your take on that? Is there no solution to this scenario? I mean, something bad has happened. The guy has paid for it. He's done his time, but in order for him to, somebody else is living with whatever happened. In order for him to also realise what he's done, and for him to also kind of bear the pain somehow, do you think it'd be reasonable to pay, 10-20% of his weekly earnings? Do you think that's something reasonable, or?
I think so. I think a good thing to do would be, first, the key thing is the player's attitude. So if he's going to be back in the public forum, I think the most important thing he can do is put together some kind of apology. It's going to be no good him still claiming innocence and denying what he's done. He has to think of the victims, think of the club, the people representing, of the young men and young children that are following him, and be apologetic for what he's done. Maybe it might be a bit insensitive to directly pay the victim, because the victim will probably want nothing to do with him. But maybe some work with charities, charities that be willing to have him, speak behind the scenes, who will be willing to talk to them, and then see where that will go to make some kind of amends to the community. Because I think absolutely in that setting, you have a big responsibility as a professional sports person. I
think yes, because football, especially in this country, is very community oriented. The clubs have a local following. It's a massive local following. So if they're doing something to pay back, so to speak, do you think that's a good idea, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Dwayne in some aspects of that. I think doing a lot of work behind the scenes, raising awareness of maybe situations that could potentially lead to committing a crime like that, whether it's heavy drinking or whatever the situation was that led him to be in a situation where he was accused of rape, definitely is something that he should do as part of his kind of re-entry back into regular society. However, I think an apology is admission of guilt in itself, and I think to apologise for something that you claim you didn't do, it is either shows you were lying before, or I think it's probably a difficult area for him to tread on. A direct apology, no, but definitely working to raise awareness of that kind of thing, yes, I'd say.
Okay, great. So what do you think? You've heard from our panel, you've heard from me. Give us your opinion, 01895 445546. Moving swiftly on to the very exciting Premiership, which kicked off yesterday. But just before it did kick off, we had a little bit of an event. One of the Premiership managers, Tony Pulis, decided to leave Crystal Palace. Do you know what's going on in Tony Pulis' head, Alex?
I don't know. It's difficult to see what's going on behind the scenes in any club. I mean, one thing I can say about Crystal Palace is that they'll miss him. What he did for them last season was fantastic, and although I'm not a fan of his brand of football, in terms of a club, he does well for the club. Stoke did really well in the Premier League because of him. It wasn't the best football in terms of entertainment, but they picked up points where they necessarily shouldn't have. Crystal Palace exactly the same. Yep. They were better, much better, nearly on points per average per game, 3 times better than they were with him than they were without him. It's difficult. From watching the interview with the co-chairman and Gary Lineker yesterday, it seems like there was some issues that they couldn't resolve, obviously, between the two of them. Yeah. Whether that was money being spent on players coming in, whether it was identifying targets, I'm not entirely sure what it was. But if a manager's not happy with what's going on at the club, I think he's doing himself and the club a favour, at least in the short term, to leave. But I think they'll struggle to find someone as good as Tony Pulis.
Yeah, Dwayne, he left at a crucial time. He did fantastically for them. I mean, he took a team that was about to be relegated, and they ended up mid-table. Do you think that his own abilities are amazing? Do you think he was thinking that he can do better, perhaps?
Tony Pulis can't lose here, in my opinion, because he's come in as a saviour, rescued them from relegation, won Manager of the Year. The turnaround was incredible. So he turns that around. Then he says, "I want these players to fulfil the ambitions he feel with the club he could achieve." They aren't met, so then he leaves. We know that the Premiership is a cutthroat business, and within 2-3 months, someone will be in trouble. And who will be the favourite for all those jobs? Tony Pulis. So he knows his stock could not be higher right now. So he's thinking, in my mind, I don't know him personally, but my guess is that he could stay at Crystal Palace. Things aren't the way they want to be, and then all of a sudden they start to lose games, and his achievements last seasons are diminished. So therefore, he probably left thinking, "This is the best I can do." And to be honest with you, I think Tony Pulis probably wants a better job than Crystal Palace, and I think he's proven at Stoke what he can do. Kept them Premiership, made them an established top 10 team for a number of years. He probably wants the job of that ilk. So I think he probably left Palace at the right time. The only people that will suffer are Palace and their fans.
But do you think that, as a chairman, if you're a chairman of a club, would you want to take on a manager who's had a disagreement with another chairman, thrown his toys out the pram and decided he wants to go somewhere else, or thought, "I can do better than this," and leave? I mean, would you want to take someone on who could potentially do that to the club?
Rationally, no, but football is extremely fickle business. You know, yesterday's villain is tomorrow's hero. Who would think that Barcelona would touch Luis Suarez with a barge pole, but yet he signs for 60-odd million? So it's like, yes, I think the look at his football management ability alone, and on that alone, Tony Pulis is unrivaled on that in terms of that mid-level top tier team, getting them up and keeping them stable.
Yeah.
So on that, he can fall back on that. It could be down to semantics. One man could say it's money, other man could say it's vision. It's about how you sell yourself.
Yeah.
And his stock is extremely high. So I think as a chairman, looking at who can get me out of trouble, Tony Pulis will come up there. I honestly believe he'll be back in the Premiership in the next 6 months to a year.
In a top 10 team?
I have a top 10 team, or a team that has sufficient resources to match his ambitions, and that he believes can go in there and do a job. I think he wants to be able to achieve the maximum. And I think Crystal Palace probably went back on some agreements, something to do with players, and he thought, well, I can only see us going one day. We need to build, and I think he could see them suffering and thought, it's better to leave now than lose my reputation and get sacked maybe later on.
The thing is, I don't know, for what we see is different to obviously what's going on behind the scenes, and I think Tony Pulis had done such a good job with Stoke for such a long period of time, and they sacked him. We don't know why.
But did they sack him? I thought it was mutual consent.
No, sorry, at Stoke.
Oh, Stoke.
Before, at Stoke they sacked him. And then this one was mutual consent. I mean, the chairman yesterday was saying that he had agreed to let him out of his contract, so obviously they'd had a disagreement about something.
Yep.
For someone who was so good at their job to get sacked and then to be let go on mutual consent from 2 consecutive clubs, there might be something, I don't know the situation, but there might be something behind the scenes where he's not either promoting the brand of football that they want, or taking the club in the direction that they want, that's causing some friction that goes beyond just football on the pitch. Okay.
So, Tony, if you're watching, we're bemused. Let us know. Give us a call. 01895 445546. Talking of stock of managers, do you think the stock value for Louis van Gaal has dropped a tad? Dwayne?
Not at all. All we know now is that his stock, it's not fallen, but the size of the job has obviously been made obvious over the results over the weekend. A lot of Man United fans, including myself, were very excited about him, and anyone with a sense of realism would know that there's still reason to be optimistic. But this could be a blessing in disguise, though, because as much as Louis van Gaal is a saviour and he can do well, he's proven what he can do as a manager, you need sufficient tools to do the job, and at the moment he hasn't got the tools. We're asking him to drill with his bare hands. He needs the right players in the midfield to create the opportunities he needs to. He needs quality to work with. This is Manchester United, really.
We heard in the news that Scholes was a little bit critical of him, that he didn't play his normal style that he's played with all the other major clubs that he's been with. He was a little bit cagey, a little bit defensive. Would you agree with that?
I don't think he's cagey defensive. I just believe he's trying to fit a style that fits the players. I mean, Manchester United have a deficiency in the wide areas. They haven't quality wide players of yesteryear. I mean, we used to have Ronaldo, George Best, Ryan Giggs, Ken Chelsea. Throughout the years, there's been a plethora of quality wide players. But unfortunately, at the moment, we have a inconsistent Ashley Young. Valencia's not been the same as in his first season.
We've got a call coming in. Hello. You're through to Sports Week. Sohail here.
Listen, I was just on your discussion about Tony Pulis.
Yes.
I was wondering,
sorry,
I mean, he's had quite a fair bit of success in England. I was thinking, what do you think his prospects are as a manager abroad? I mean, he's had so much success in England. Do you think foreign countries like Spain and Italy aren't going to want a manager like this because of his brand of English style of football?
Okay, thank you, caller. Caller, would you like to identify yourself? Tell us your name. The call has dropped. Okay, not to worry. Basically, we've had a call in, and the caller has said, Tony Pulis is. Would he be looking at managing perhaps at a national level, bearing in mind what he's achieved? Do you think he's got that pedigree to take on like an England job or a country job, to manage a country? Was the question from the caller. What do you think, very quickly, before we go back to Manchester United?
Yeah, I think maybe a kind of a below top level international job, I think could work for him, because I think he could be putting together players from all over European leagues, so it wouldn't necessarily be the top level players that are in the Premier League. Also, I think in terms of playing in teams in Spain, Germany, France, Holland, Italy, I think teams over there have a very different brand of football. Not English style at all, where Tony Pulis' football very much is.
Okay.
And I think that big difference is something that could work for him internationally, I think.
Right. Okay. Thanks very much for that, and thank you for the caller, whoever called in. That's we're going to take a very short break. Take a note of our number: 01895 445546 at the end. Then we'll be continuing very shortly after the break with Louis van Gaal and what's happened at Manchester United yesterday. Stay with us. Thank you.
يا نبي سلام عليك، يا رسول سلام عليك، يا حبيب سلام عليك، صلوات الله عليك. يا نبي سلام عليك، يا رسول سلام عليك، يا حبيب سلام عليك، صلوات الله عليك. يا نبي سلام عليك، يا رسول سلام عليك، يا حبيب سلام عليك، صلوات الله عليك. وطني حبيبي، وطني الغالي، وطني النجم العالي، وطن جعل مضيء المجاريح، وطني وطني الغالي، وطني وطني حبيبي، وطني الغالي، وطني النجم العالي، وطن جعل مضيء المجاريح، وطني وطني الغالي، وطني.
Hello and welcome back. We were talking about Manchester United, their loss yesterday, the first Premiership game of the season at home. And Dwayne was just elaborating on the history that Man United have had over the years of some of the fantastic and best players ever. And perhaps that they might be lacking, and Louis van Gaal is trying to put together a squad that can emulate the Manchester United of the past. Alex, how far do you think Man United are from that vision that Louis van Gaal might have?
Well, I mean, first of all, I wouldn't read too much into the first game of the season for anyone. I think the first game of the Guardiola era at Barcelona lost to Numancia, and obviously you know what happened after that, one of the best teams of all time. So I wouldn't look too much into that. I think my opinion is, apart from me really enjoying Man United losing yesterday, my opinion is that I think he's probably at least one centre-back and two midfielders away from top four. I think he would need to quite quickly after that add some wide players as well, as Dwayne mentioned. I think Van Gaal plays 4-3-3
Yeah.
a lot. At Ajax he played that, at Bayern played that, and also at Barcelona. With the Dutch team, he played a similar formation he played yesterday with Man United, and it was because he was playing with probably below world-class level defenders. I think he recognises that and obviously adapts the formation to suit the team and the players that he has.
Okay.
The fact that he did that with Man United shows that he is lacking some players, and he said after the game that he doesn't have the players that he needs to do what he wants to do. So I wouldn't say it's Van Gaal who's under the pressure at the moment necessarily. I'd say Ed Woodward needs to come and show his face and create some action. I think that's the big issue. I think.
Well, Dwayne, what do you think he meant about the loss of confidence? Who confidence on whose part?
I think the players are nervous. I mean, what happens is we're trying to establish a new system. Manchester United was traditionally played 4-4-2 or iterations of that 4-4-1-1, etc. You want to get into specifics, but the system is what needs to be. The confidence needs to be bred in the system. As soon as we lost the game, a lot of the radio phone-ins and talk shows and online are saying, why are we playing 3-5-2? Why are we doing that? That's not the natural Manchester United way. So the belief in the system, which has been instilled over positive pre-season results, has almost diminished straight away. So now there are questions, there's pressure on the players to see if they can deliver. So that's what I feel the pressure is. As I said, I agree with Alex, the pressure isn't so much on Van Gaal, because what's gone before is to see that there's a belief amongst the fans, there's a belief amongst the general public that Manchester United need to strengthen. But he's trying to find a new way, instill a new philosophy, which will take time, but he needs the correct tools. If Manchester United do well with this current squad, it will be in spite of their players and not because of them. So because of brilliant management, because the tools at the moment are deficient, they're dull, and there needs to be surgery. I said last week, surgery needs to go forward for Man United. The quality, as I said, is not there. The team is as weak as it's been for a very long time, and United fans are crying out for fresh blood, and it needs to happen. And we can only look at our management. Ed Woodward, where are you? You know?
Okay, some more clout needs to come in from the top and make some decisions. What about the decision regarding the captaincy? Rooney played his part well, do you think? Scoring a goal?
I don't know. I have mixed feelings on Rooney being captain of Man United. I think a player who can hold the club to ransom and try and force a move or try and force anything at the club, I don't know how much of a leader he can be. He's a great leader when things are going well. How much of a leader can you be when things aren't going so well? However, out of all the players at Man United, he's probably the most senior and consistent there. I mean,
what about Van Persie? He was captain at Arsenal.
I think Van Persie's captaincy at Arsenal was due to a lack of alternative. I don't think there was anyone else there. Van Persie was by far the best player in the team. He
has had impact though. As soon as Van Persie landed at Manchester United, he pretty much set his mark. And what's your take on it?
I agree with this. I find it very funny that an Arsenal fan could talk about getting held to ransom by their club, because the names Nasri, Fabregas, Van Persie spring to mind automatically. So I think that's a bit of a faux pas on Alex's part. But I do agree to a certain extent. There isn't the unanimous claim for Rooney that it would be of other captains, because again he's got a bit of a checkered history with the club. But people have to remember that Ferguson didn't want him at a time, and I think if Ferguson remained, Rooney would have left. So to a degree, I can see why he wanted to leave. And again, out of everyone there, who's a key player? Really, Rooney will play week in, week out. There is no really other outstanding candidate, which again, shamefully is terrible at our recruitment process, but Rooney is an outstanding candidate to be captain. Arguably Van Persie's been there for only 2 years, and how much of features he got at the club, he's just hit, he's 31 now. So Rooney is the long-term captain, and I think he will be a captain as well. I predict he will be in captain as well, and I think it can push him on to the next level to lead club and country, and I think we're going to see a rejuvenated Wayne Rooney in the next couple of years. I fully believe that.
See, for me, I think if your club has a centre forward as a captain, it's because he's your best player and he's leading the club as the best player, not as the best leader. I think for me personally, I like to see central defenders specifically, and central midfielders as captains, because they have more impact on the build-up of the game, and they can see the game going forward. Even if you look at Arsenal, which are obviously the best examples for me, when Henry was our captain, it's because he was our stand-up player. When Van Persie was our captain, he was our stand-up player. However, when Tony Adams was our captain, he wasn't the best player in our team, but he's, for me, one of the best captains we've ever had. And it's when you have leaders in the team who are able to... Vieira, exactly. Vieira was from central midfield again. But he wasn't the best player in our team. So I think
Arteta recently.
and Arteta is now our captain now. Vermaelen last season, although for me, I think Mert Saka was the captain secretly. But even then, it's because they're not the best player. They're not kind of trying to drag the team from the front. They're kind of leading it from the back. And I think the fact that Rooney is captain at Man United is kind of indicative of that.
Yeah, but the thing about Rooney is the park footballer. I mean, I can understand Alex's point.
Is that
talking about like better than you in the park. It's like he's not the kind of player that can stick up front and put his hands in his hips, a la Gallas, a few years ago, who was another Arsenal captain, which Alex is forgetting. Great captain he was. But he's the kind of captain. He's the kind of player that will end up at left back or end up at right back or head the ball out of the area. He's an all-action player. He plays with his heart on his sleeve, and the English, he gets the fans off their seats, either via skill or just sheer will and determination. And I think your captain has to be a force of nature, share personality, and there's no doubt Rooney has personality in abundance. So I think he's an outstanding captain for any club. If Rooney went to anywhere, if he went to Arsenal, I think he'd end up being captain. If he went to
okay, so is he a better captain than Vidic? Will he be a better captain than Vidic?
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Do you think he'll be a better captain than Vidic?
He could be. Only time will tell in terms of the success that we have in the next couple of years, or how he performs and deals with the pressure. I think there's more pressure on you as a centre forward to be a captain than there is as a defender, because as a defender, really truly, you just have to defend and make sure you don't make mistakes. As a centre forward, you might have to take the big penalties, or you might have to score the crucial goals, and it's compounded by the fact that you are the captain. So if you miss, the captain leads the team to defeat or leads the team to victory.
Yeah, but as a captain, essentially as a captain, what you're doing is implementing the manager's instructions on the pitch, right?
Yeah.
So as a centre forward, how much influence do you have on the rest of the play, apart from kind of the final third? I mean, I do agree, Rooney is a great player, don't get me wrong. I think his impact he has at Man United is fantastic. And I think he does influence the game more than most centre forwards. However, as a centre back, for instance, you organise defence, and then a lot of the play starts from you as well. How the game is played, you can dictate the pace of the game, you can control the spaces on the pitch a lot more as a defender. I don't think you have that impact in the game as a centre forward, and that's why I think Rooney being the captain is kind of, there is no one else. Who else could it be?
You've got a point there, but again, I would still stress the type of player that Rooney is that Rooney is not, again, going to stand up on the halfway line in the 6-yard box and look for tap-ins. Rooney will come deep, look for the ball, sometimes dictate play himself, drop balls and play 50-yard passes to other players. So he always wants to be heavily involved in the process. So I think that argument is not necessarily relevant to a player like Wayne Rooney. More arguably to a player like Van Persie, to be honest. But then he also does like to get involved in the play also. So I think it can work. And to be honest, we're forgetting Alan Shearer, a well-renowned goal scorer, was a very big captain for club and country.
For who? For Newcastle?
For Newcastle and for England.
For Newcastle.
We got a live call coming in, Bruce. Hello there.
Hello?
Hello. Yes.
Hi there.
Can you give us your name?
My name's Ian.
Sorry?
Ian.
Ian, hello Ian. What would you like to say? Welcome to TV99 Sports Show.
Well, basically, I just thought I'd call in to speak about what I believe is an obvious shift of power between the two superpowers in English-British football. That is Liverpool and Manchester United.
Okay, interesting take. Two superpowers, Liverpool and Man United.
That's very interesting that someone who's watched football in the last 20 years would call Liverpool a superpower.
Well, as you know, the power's shifted as far as I'm concerned, and I just wanted your take on things, because obviously for the past 20 years we've seen Manchester United winning just about everything under the sun, and obviously over the past year and a half we've seen a massive shift. Alex Ferguson's gone, and now we can see that Liverpool have once again risen to the top, and I'm just wondering if you can see what I see, which is Manchester United falling down the pipeline into obscurity and Liverpool taking over where Manchester United have been for the past 20 years.
I'll let you have that one.
Right, thank you for your call, Ian. I appreciate that. Personally, I don't really see what you've seen. I've seen a blip. More a manager took over who was incompetent, just like when Liverpool had Dalglish or Roy Evans. It was a blip in the season rather than a cyclical change. I don't think Liverpool are the natural successors to success in the Premiership. I think you got Chelsea and Man City are more outstanding candidates. But in terms of the shift between the two teams, arguably there was a positional shift as to a power shift, because Liverpool didn't actually win anything. They won a lot of hearts, but hearts is nothing in the trophy cabinet. So when it comes to this season, I fully believe, Edward would help me out here, but after a few transfers that will see United return to their natural position at the top above Liverpool, where Liverpool will remain slipped back down into obscurity where they deserve.
Yeah, I think I'll concur with that as well. Liverpool is a superpower. Well, I was born in 1987, so I have to go to the history books to see Liverpool as a superpower. I see Liverpool as a big club, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure Liverpool fans will tell me about the trophies they won in the 80s. But I can't see Liverpool going back to that anytime soon. I think they had Luis Suarez, who's obviously a fantastic player last season, the same way that Tottenham had Gareth Bale a couple of seasons ago, and I think Liverpool have done a very similar thing. They've sold a penknife and they bought a corkscrew and a spoon.
They did very well today, though. They won their first match.
Very well is a bit strong, I think. They did well. I mean, they beat the team that they bought their players from. So, I mean, you'd expect them to win that. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Liverpool are okay. I wouldn't call them. They're not coming back into the superpower realms. They're nowhere near Chelsea and Man City, and they're not anywhere near Arsenal either.
I think Liverpool also, I mean, for a long time, Liverpool are tantamount to like a Werther's original story, share of your grandfather, or about times in the war that historically they do quite well. But all joking aside, over the past 2 years, there's been a massive improvement, and they have some good young players. So Raheem Sterling, Daniel Sturridge, but there's a lot of pressure on the latter. Coutinho, I forgot, yes. But there's a lot of pressure on the latter this season, and the question is, will he be able to deliver being the main man without having Suarez at that focal point? And that's a big question. And my prediction at this moment in time is he may do well, but I do not believe he'll be able to hit the heights he would have last season. There's going to be a lot more pressure on him.
Okay, lovely. Time will tell. Let's see what happens. Let's move on to some of the other matches. We saw newcomers to the Premiership, Leicester City, play Everton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. What did you see that match? What did you think of it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Leicester. I really like Leicester. I think the game itself was exciting. Both Everton goals were good finishes.
We have another call. Just bear with me. Yes, caller. Can you? What's your name?
Hi, my name's Graham.
Sorry.
Graham.
Lovely, Graham. What would you like to say?
Basically, I agree previously with Ian's call. I think there is a power shift, and we are seeing the demise of Man United. What do you guys think?
Okay, thank you for your call. We'll come back to this in a moment, because we need to get through to some of the other matches, but we'll pick up again towards the end of the show on your point. But thank you for your call, much appreciated. We'll come back to this question about the power shift. Obviously, it's touched nerve with our viewers about the top teams. But let's just go back to Leicester. The newcomers had a good game. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a terrible game for them. I mean, for me, Leicester are a Premiership club. If you look at their fan base, if you look at their stadium, if you look at their setup, even the kind of youth setup as well, I really like Leicester, and I actually tipped them to probably be the surprise team for this season. Yesterday, I mean, to get a draw against Everton, how well Everton did last season as well, I think it's a good result for them anyway. Both goals Everton scored were kind of top finishes, and there was not really much you could do about that. And they fought back as well. They fought back from 1-0 down to come to 1-1, and they fought back again from 2-1 down to bring it to 2-1.
A fair result in the end.
And I think a draw on the balance of things was a fair result for them. And I think for a club who's just come up to play Everton, and I think they've got City and Arsenal their next two games as well, so they've got a tough start. But I think they'll still do really well. Okay,
another team that's come up is QPR. Dwayne, their match yesterday. What's your take on what happened at QPR?
Yeah, I was disappointed for them personally. I'm a big fan of Rio Ferdinand. I like QPR. I quite like Harry Redknapp. He's a bit of the man of the people, Harry. It's a bit disconcerting actually, because I thought they'd pick. That's a game they should be winning. And I looked at their team, and I know last week I tipped them to do quite well, but I see remnants of the mistakes that were made last time in the Premiership. But I said a lot of big time Charlies, older professionals, winding down. I'm not sure, and I'm hopeful they do stay up, but I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. I expect them to beat Hull yesterday. They lost. Again, as Alex said, it's very early days. I still expect them to do well, but I expect QPR, to be honest, to actually outshine Leicester City. But on the early stage, it looks like maybe the other way around. But I said I'm still hopeful for QPR, my local club, that they'll do all right. And Harry will use his experience to bring them through any tough times.
Harry Houdini.
Yeah, I love Harry.
He'll work his magic again.
From a car window, probably. But
The next match was Stoke. Alex, what's your take on what happened at Stoke yesterday? They lost as well at home.
Yeah, I didn't see the whole game. I only saw the highlights for the Stoke game. Stoke is another one for me that I'm not entirely sure kind of where I expect them to finish. There's probably about 10, 11 paces in the league table that they could finish this season. I don't expect them to go down, but I don't expect them to do anything fantastic either. I think Mark Hughes has proven to be a decent manager for mid-table clubs. I mean, he didn't do a very good job at City, but he did a much better job for Wales, and at Fulham he was at as well.
That's right, yeah.
So I think they'll do okay. A loss for them at home is something that you wouldn't have expected under Tony Pulis. But under Mark Hughes, it's not such a massive surprise, I think. Okay. Aston Villa, I think, did very well, though, to pull out a win at Stoke.
They did. They've got a good squad now. Well, they've got a strong squad. I don't know, do you expect them to stay up? They were touch and go last season.
See, I don't. I think they're more balanced. I think they've got a balanced squad, but I don't think there's anything outstanding about them that's going to push them, take them above the relegation. I'll put them in the bottom 5.
Okay, what about you, Dwayne? What do you reckon?
Aston Villa. I said last week that I didn't expect them to do well, but I was saying to Alex earlier today when we were watching the football, is that seeing Sendros and Ranvlar perform so well was like, the Expendables, the double partnership doing really, really well.
World Cup players.
Yeah,
they did fantastic.
To be fair, and Sendros is a bit of a journeyman who's been around, but maybe he's found a home. But I can't see. I think this is a flash in the pan. I mean, I'll be immensely surprised if Villa do anything other than just the relegation, finish 2 places above or a place above. There's too much upheaval, not enough quality in the team. Ryan and Benteke come back from injury. Will he be able to hit the heights he did last time? I don't know. I think Villa are one of the teams I would tip to go down.
Okay. Staying in the Midlands, West Bromwich Albion. They had 4 games in that game against Sunderland. What do you think, Dwayne, for 4 good goals?
Well, it was a good game. I feel like we took it's the Midlands football was up and coming. I mean, with Aston Villa doing alright, West Bromwich Albion got a lot of good young players as well. It was a good result for them yesterday. I kind of expected him to win it. I like Sergio Barino. I'm interested to see where he's going to go as a player. It's something about him. Yeah, he's like, he wants to. I want to see how he develops over a consistent period of time. He's got a big reputation from England youth teams. So I wonder if he can take that next step up. And they have a new manager, Alan Irvine now. So it's interesting if he make that step up for management. He used to be a coach under David Moyes at Everton. So there's a lot of interesting times, but again, it's very early. I mean, they had a really torrid time under Pepe Mel. Yeah. But it's good for their confidence to get the games going, and they have some useful players like Guerra, the guy midfielders, Malumbu, who's another very useful player. So in terms of it's interesting to see how they're gonna push on this season.
And Sunderland, they had the great escape last season, and 2 fantastic goals, Catamol and Larson. Did you see them?
I think for me, Sunderland, I think will stay up. I like the manager. I think he's got a good pedigree. I think they've done well in the transfer window as well so far. I mean, they took Manone from Arsenal, and they've got Jack Rodwell from City as well. That's a good signing for them. If he can stay fit, it'll be a good signing for them.
Good player.
But for me, the overall thing for the game yesterday, what I was most impressed with was Bernardino. He was, for me, how old is he? 21, and for him to take the penalty. To take it to 1-0, especially cool. After he didn't win the penalty and Nietzsche did, which wasn't a penalty. But that's a different story. But for him to take the penalty and then for him to pop up with the equaliser as well at the end, I think I was really impressed with his performance and his tenacity throughout the game. But Sunderland, I think they'll do okay. I'll put it like 15th, 14th in the league.
Dwayne, did you see the match? Well, good game.
It's a good game. I think Sunderland could do better than that. I mean, Gus Poyet is trying to implement a certain style of football. He's a South American player, Uruguayan, very passionate about his country, so when during the World Cup. And to be fair, Sunderland came and can play football. And they've got some experienced players. So you're talking about Wes Brown, John O'Shea, Alex May Scoff, players have done particularly well against Arsenal in the past. But they've got a lot of experience. They've been there, done it. Manone's, to be honest with you, has done surprisingly well. And then they've got a lot of players. And I think they can. I think they can push for a top 10 place. I honestly think they can push. If they miss it, it won't be my match. But I think they can push for a top 10 place. 11th, 12th at worst.
Okay, and now to West Ham, who had a really good game, I thought, and they should have, in my opinion, they should have either drawn or possibly even won. But
I think that game had a 0-0 draw written all over it for me. I struggled to stay awake. It was boring football. And I hope we don't see any more games like that this season.
He's an Arsenal fan, by the way, so let's just...
Tottenham, for me, Tottenham, there was a period of time when Tottenham were kind of challenging Arsenal for the top four. When we were going through our worst period and they were going through their best period, they were still kind of reaching up to us. They had a bit of a run in the Champions League, they had Gareth Bale, and since then they've just gone back to being a bang average team.
So they've got a 20-year-old defender now who can score.
I haven't heard. Tottenham fans haven't stopped telling me they found a 20-year-old who can score. Get a couple of strikers that can score as well, and they'll be laughing, I reckon.
But he's better than Callum Chambers, though, isn't he?
Apparently, yes, I've been doing. He's better than Jack Wilshere as well. So no, I just think West Ham are going to play Sam Allardyce football, which isn't ever the best. I liked him at Bolton, actually, Sam Allardyce. I think he did a good job at Bolton all those years ago. But West Ham are going to play Sam Allardyce football while he's there. Tottenham, I think, are going to pick up the last... For me, there's 7 teams that are going to be kind of the top 7 for foreseeable future. And Tottenham are going to be the 6th or 7th in those for the next few years, I think.
I think what you have there is 2 teams that are trying to find their identity. I think Sam Allardyce has got to win the bookies' favourites to be one of the first, another managerial casualty for the season. I think there's too much upheaval at boardroom level and a difficult relationship for it not to end in tears for Sam. They should have won the game yesterday. They had so many chances, obviously, apart from the penalty and loads of clever. Stuart Downing's 1-on-1, good save from Lowery's top keeper, but they really should put that away. And then, obviously, when another player sent off, and it was back to 10 on 10. The problem with Tottenham, I see at the moment, is they're still trying to work out how they want to play. So he's moved around Lamela, who came with a big reputation, hasn't done anything so far. He was on the left. Had to make it too complicated, didn't play it simple. Ericsson, who had a good season, moderately okay, hasn't found his feet. I think Pochettino needs to imprint his philosophy on that team, and then we can give a fairer idea of where Tottenham are going to be, because at the moment they look a bit lost in terms of how they're going to play through that midfield. Adebayor will always grab goals and probably score against Arsenal again. But
do you think Pochettino is the man to gel the team together and to bring back some kind of a team effort, as opposed to it was just a bunch of individuals last season?
He has good pedigree. At Espanyol, he did a lot of good stuff. They were playing great football, and remember, that's a limited budget. They're the second Catalan club after Barcelona, always a clip of Barcelona, but had them playing good, attractive, technical football. Having that Argentinian and then Spanish, Latin background, and always want to play attractive football, which is what the Tottenham fans want. Hence why they love Villa and Ardiles. But I think he needs time, and the problem with Tottenham is, do you get time at Tottenham? Time indicates that you don't. So it depends. It really does depend.
Time was something Mr. Moyes was complaining about this weekend as well.
Yeah, he
wasn't given enough time.
I'm not sure where I stand on that. I think if you hired him on a 6-year contract, and he plays the same kind of football that he played for the last 10 years, why have you sacked him? What did you expect him? He's not like he did something completely different and it didn't work out. He did exactly what he's been doing. Yep. So to sack him off the back of that after 1 year, after he's hired him for a 6-year contract, it seems a bit strange to me. I understand, obviously, he fell well below the standards expected at Manchester United. But I think if he had a long-term plan, there's going to be dips. There's going to be low points. I don't know if they would expect it to be as low as 7th place. But there are going to be low points.
But this is the fickleness of the Premiership. Even at a club like Manchester United, who've had the same manager for ages, he lasted a year. So that's what I'm saying with Pochettino. It's another top club where the board, they want results.
I think Spurs need to be realistic as well, though. I mean, what are they expecting to do? The top 4 clubs from last season have a lot more clout than them. Then outside of that, you have Manchester United, obviously a lot more clout as well, and Everton, who are playing much better football, and for me have a better squad. So 7th place is probably the worst Tottenham can expect to do, 5th is probably the best, I think. So I think what is their aim? What are they after? Because what do they want the manager to do? Do they want them to get Champions League football? Do they want them to win the league? Because that's unlikely to happen.
But I think with Tottenham, they've tasted that Champions League football.
Yep.
They've lived that dream. Therefore, they want to get back to the promised land. And to tie back to our previous caller who talked about power shifts and the cyclical nature of football, yes, we can look at that. But Tottenham used to be a very big club. Arsenal have, until recently, have seen better days. So there is a cycle when it comes to these things. But what it is that is the overall aim and the size history of your club. Tottenham have a good history, League Cup winners, Glenn Hoddle and so forth.
They're not a big club, come on.
But they are one of the bigger clubs in England.
2 league titles ever, they're not a big club.
Some teams have no league titles. Like some teams have no Champions Leagues. Like Arsenal, when Nottingham Forest have 2.
Okay. Does it make them bigger clubs?
I'm just saying, these are some of the things. It's all relative. It's relative. They're not a nothing club.
They're not a nothing club,
Yeah.
but they're not a big club. Because when you talk of big clubs in this country, for me, if you look at history and current performance, I'd say there's 3 big clubs, and I would say that's Manchester United, Liverpool, and Arsenal. I said City and Chelsea will be big clubs, but Tottenham, you can't call them a big club, can you?
It's relative.
A debatable point. Debatable point. We're coming towards the end, so we've still got a couple of matches to talk about. So let's talk about Arsenal. Do you think it was a great escape, Dwayne?
It was a great escape, and I loathe to say this because I would love to make Alex squirm, but I have to say this is the kind of game that last season Arsenal would have lost or got a point at most.
Yeah.
It is, again, we don't read too much into it, but it is a positive sign that Arsenal won ugly. They got the goal, and Ramsey seems to. I think Ramsey is a potentially world-class player. I think he's picking up where he's left off from. The Community Shield took his goal extremely well. And he has a confidence. He's a future Arsenal captain in my mind. He's a go-to player.
Yep.
First name on the team sheet. I'm talking. Forget Sanchez. Forget Ozil. Forget all this. Ramsey is the first name on the Arsenal team sheet. And I think Arsenal go strength to strength. Their confidence will grow. The apex moment for Arsenal this season, for me, is when they play a big team. When they play Chelsea. When they play City. If they get turned over again, then it's same old. But if they can somehow nick a result or imprint themselves on those games, then we are talking about serious title contenders.
See, this is where I disagree with most people. Although as a fan, obviously I do want to see Arsenal beat rivals. However, last season, okay, we got spanked at City, we got spanked by Liverpool at Anfield, and we got spanked by Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. However, first game of the season, at home, we lost 3-1 to Aston Villa. We lost away to Stoke 1-0. And a horrible, ugly game that went nowhere. We drew with West Brom. I mean, that right there is 8 points that we've dropped. We lost. We were 7 points behind the champions last season. For me, if you can beat every other team out there, you can lose to the other top 3 and you can still win the league. I'm not saying that's what the model we should go after. We do obviously still want to win those big games, but I think the consistency after Ramsey got injured, and going back to your point about Ramsey being a go-to player, after he got injured on Boxing Day, we struggled for about 3 months. And we had a really bad 3 months. I was watching the game yesterday, and I thought it was one of the ugliest performances I've seen Arsenal play in a long time. The 4 behind the striker, Wilshere, Ramsey, Cazorla and Alexis, is a very exciting prospect, and all of them played badly. For me, there's only 2 players that played well yesterday. It's Arteta and Callum Chambers. And for us to do that and have 2 players on the pitch that played well and win is something new for Arsenal. That's the old Man United way. Old Man United could play really badly and still win. We'd play really well and still lose. So I think that was a good sign for me. So
the key is to really try and beat the bigger clubs.
I think so.
The ones that thrashed them last season.
It's good for morale as well. I think even if it doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, even beating Man City in the Community Shield doesn't actually mean anything. It's not a real trophy. But to go out there and put down a marker against a relatively strong Man City team is still something good for confidence and morale in the team.
Okay, final game that's, there's one game being played right now as we speak, but the final game that we haven't talked about, we touched on Liverpool earlier, but a win for them today. Signs of things to come against Southampton, who possibly weakened. Yeah,
I think Liverpool... obviously, the big question is the Suarez enigma. Will they push on and thrive? Will they suffer because of a talisman? I think it's more of the latter. depends how. I don't. Maybe the decline meant necessarily to be that bad because they finished second. So if they decline by position, to me that's still relatively successful for Liverpool. If they finish third, that's a successful season. Pick up a trophy as well, doubly successful. They did well today. Southampton, however, did put themselves about. I mean, I tipped Southampton for relegation. I'm not necessarily saying I'm coming away from that, but I think that we saw that the imprint of the philosophy again, a word we use a lot recently. That philosophy is still there. Koeman is, a Dutch legend, absolutely immense player. He's going to want to play football the right way, the Ajax way. He's going to come to that club and look, that's the way they want to play. The fans are used to it. So if he can still implement that tidy player they got from Inter Milan, looks very useful, very technical, gifted player. They caused 1 or 2 problems, and Shane Long will be a surprise package. But Liverpool, I think they did okay. They did okay today, and I have to admit, it's a game they're always going to win. I think the key play for Liverpool is when Champions League and then Premiership starts. So Tuesday, Saturday. Wednesday, Saturday. That's just how he's going to do. And then will Sturridge be able to duplicate his performances on Tuesday, on a Saturday? This provided they don't sign an additional striker. If they do sign an additional striker, their chances will increase. Okay, and Sturridge scoring again today. Is he just going to continue in the same vein that he...
I think things with Sturridge and Sterling, I think they're both really good players. I'm not going to say they're exceptional players, but I think they're very, very good players, both of them. Last season, there was no pressure on them, really. I mean, Liverpool, they had no European football to play, and as a centre-back, if I was coming up against that team, I'd be looking at Suarez and thinking, I need to deal with this guy. So there's a lot of pressure taken off them. This season it's going to be back on them again, unless they buy a world-class striker. I mean, Ricky Lambert isn't going to be able to do what Suarez is doing.
Yep.
I think
Lallana as well.
And Lallana, yeah. I mean, both of them, are relatively good signings. I think they're both good players, but they're not going to instill the kind of fear that Suarez did. And I think to kind of rest your hopes,
they don't bite.
They don't bite. That's true. They don't have any bite in the final third. I think relying on young players to be the star can be very dangerous, especially if you expect them to play not just 38 games a season, but kind of closer to 48, 50 games a season with European and Cup football as well. There can be injuries that come in there as well, or dips in form and confidence as well you have to worry about with young players. So I think Liverpool will do okay.
Okay. And today's final game, City, the champions, versus Newcastle.
Yeah, when I last saw it, was 1-0 to City.
1-0 to City, okay. We shall see how that develops. There's one more game during the week, which is Arsenal. It's a European game. Dwayne, what do you reckon the outcome might be?
Turkey's always tricky. A lovely country to go to on holiday, but not so nice place to play football at. It's very hostile. Galatasaray, welcome to hell. But Besiktas, not the same kind of club. They've got Demba Ba. But honestly, I expect Arsenal to come away minimum score draw. Minimum. Okay. I think they'll pick up a result there.
They're away, aren't they?
Yes, first leg, yeah. So I think they'll pick up a win. And with the pace on the line, on the counter attack, I think Sanchez will grab his first goal of that game. I think he'll get a nice goal on the counter attack. I think Ramsey. I think Arsenal will take that at least 2-1. I think.
Okay, same sentiment.
No, I'm a little bit more worried. We need to obviously win the leg, win the tie. Sorry, not necessarily this leg. And we've got Everton as our next league game as well. Everton away, which is going to be a difficult game.
Yep.
I think that our final move in the transfer window will wait until we have this Champions League qualification under our belt. So I think that'll be in the back of the minds of the staff there. Although, as Dwayne said, Besiktas are a team that are kind of there to be played. They're not easy. And Demba Ba does love a goal against Arsenal as well. So I wouldn't necessarily it's going to be a walk in the park for us.
Yep.
But I do think it'll be a difficult game. I think we might draw the away leg, score draw.
Okay.
I think we'll win the home tie.
All right, so that's on Wednesday. Exciting times for Arsenal. We're going to end on a light-hearted note. It's something that we probably noticed and made fun of in the past, is the dress sense for footballers. I mean, they earn fortunes, and yet when you see some of them as pundits coming on TV, their dress sense leaves a little bit to be desired. I think we've got a few pictures up there. I mean, if you look at Laura's collars, have you ever noticed how huge his collars are? And they've got 2 buttons in there. I don't know if you can see clearly.
Yeah.
But what is going on with these ex-footballers and their ties? They're just like old school ties.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Lawrenson, I think he dresses like he still buys his suits from BHS. I don't know if he even cares about what he puts on.
He might. I mean, he's on a BBC salary, so fair enough. But you know, the likes of the Neville brothers, for example, they could do a bit better.
Yeah, Gary Neville is a man that's more worried about the environment than his dress sense. Probably like a recycled shirt, you know, polystyrene cuffs, and you know, made from raw materials, organic materials. So I think like that. But we do use some terrible. Robbie Savage has some really like bright, summery clothes on an autumn afternoon.
And Rooney as well.
Yeah.
Tell you what, John Barnes has some horrible shiny suits.
But this is the thing, shiny suits. I mean, I was picking out some pictures, and we saw Cole as well, formerly Chelsea, now Roma, in a really shiny grey suit. What is it with the bling? Is it?
And Dwight York as well. Dwight York has some. I don't know if this is about me. I quite like Dwight York suits.
Can you see the one with the Tottenham player, Lennon? I don't know if you can see properly. But he's wearing a shirt, but the tie is the same print as the shirt. You know, I mean, they're on megabucks. They've got icons like David Beckham, who knows how to dress. Surely they. I mean, I'm going to show you pictures now of what footballers should dress like. There you go. There's a couple of iconic players. They're both European, but you know, the epitome of cool, Mr. Pirlo there. Surely that's the way to go, boys.
Yeah, but Pirlo could go out in sackcloth.
Yeah, ridiculous. The man oozes cool. And plus, he's Italian. I mean, Italians are good at anything. It's ridiculous. So you can't even compare. But what I didn't like is Adrian Chiles. He was like a tax collector or an MP before. But Xabi Alonso, some of the style's good. It's all relative, I guess. But I mean, they could do a lot better. I mean, let's go as far as haircuts. I mean, Bakary Sagna. Forget that. Raheem Sterling and Daniel Sturridge. We're not in the 70s, not in Temptation.
Oh, and Danny Welbeck.
And lose Jerry Curl. I've told him to cut it already. But lose Jerry Curl. So I mean, I think we need to have a word of these. We need to write a few letters. The fans need to write in. Fellaini. We cut it up, didn't he?
No, Shamak.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah. Short back and sides, just keep it simple. Go to the barbers.
Shamak gets a lot of stick about his haircut from his own fans.
Yeah. Well, Wilshere and Ramsey do have really good hair. And Giroud and Arteta. So it must be an Arsenal thing, having good hair.
Are you styling it personally?
Ramsey seems to be copying Mr. Beckham.
Yeah, he does.
Going the Beckham route.
Yeah.
So what's your take on dress sense for the footballers? Have you just let us know your opinions? We've unfortunately run out of time, but it's been an absolutely thrilling and enthralling discussion today. I hope you'll join us again next week. Do give us a call. You've got the number now. It'll come up again, 01895 445546. You can also go to our TV99 Facebook page. Let us know what you thought about the show, about the teams that we discussed, some of the people we discussed. Give us your views and opinions. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. My thanks to Alex and to Dwayne for their in-depth knowledge of all the games and the people and the sport. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you and goodbye.